Today's webinar is about ESG and reliable platforms for GHG and PCF reporting. We have a great lineup of speakers and panelists here. So without any further delay, I will start with brief introductions. We have Ms. Nadita Ramachala, who is a senior standards and quality infrastructure professional with 2 decades of experience driving national, regional, and international standardization. Without any delay, I will pass the stage on to Ms. Nadita, who will give us a keynote for this particular session. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
I think we need to add her up. There is a text there to add up her again. Yeah.
Good day, everyone. Good day, distinguished panelists, participants, colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity to share a standards-based perspective on the evolving role of ISO frameworks in ESG, greenhouse gas reporting, and product carbon footprint reporting. It's an honor and privilege to deliver the keynote address today. I will be touching on several different areas. So starting off with one of the main issues, the alignment between the Greenhouse Gas Protocol and ISO 14064. For many years, both frameworks have been used internationally, but sometimes by different communities and for different purposes. The GHG protocol has been widely used for corporate greenhouse gas accounting, particularly for Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 reporting. While the ISO 14064 Part 1, which focuses on the organizational level, provides principles, requirements at the organizational level for quantifying and reporting greenhouse gas emissions and removals, with a strong emphasis on inventory design, documentation, reporting, and verification. The major progress is that ISO and GHG protocol have established a strategic partnership focused on formal cooperation and harmonization. And this is particularly significant because organizations, investors, regulators, verifiers, and supply chain partners need a common language. Harmonization can reduce duplication, improve comparability, and make reporting more practical. From a standards perspective, this alignment is very welcome. It means organizations should not see ISO 14064 and the GHG protocol as competing tools. Rather, they should see them as complementary. The main developments thus far is that the establishment of a joint working group entitled ISO GHGP, Joint Working Group on Carbon Footprint of Products, Requirements, and Guidelines for Quantification. This joint working group has been established, and this is part of the partnership arrangement. And also, we have the participation of GHG protocol representatives on the ISO TC 207 Subcommittee 7 Working Group 5. Just to highlight the work of the Subcommittee 7, this subcommittee is responsible for standardization related to greenhouse gas and climate change management and related activities. And the Working Group 5 covers quantification, monitoring, and reporting of greenhouse gas emission reductions or removal enhancements for projects. This integration and the partnership means that we can transform carbon accounting from a choice between 2 frameworks into a unified global system. The collaboration aims to completely harmonize global emissions reporting and eliminate redundancy for corporate disclosures. Partnership between ISO and the GHG protocol, this is critical to ensure that we have a unified system. And touching on something that is important for ESG professionals. So looking at how our ISO TC 207 initiatives relate to IFRS S1 and IFRS S2. Around 2023, ISO as an organization and the IFRS Foundation would have recognized the importance of cooperation and collaboration. The ISO environmental management and greenhouse gas standards can support companies in implementing sustainability and climate commitments, and also help to provide internal systems, controls, and the evidence needed to support disclosures aligned with the IFRS S1, the general requirements for disclosure of sustainability-related financial information, and the IFRS S2, looking at the climate-related disclosures. Looking at the role of the ISO TC 207, the committee remains highly relevant because the scope covers environmental management systems, auditing, verification and validation, environmental labeling, life cycle assessment, climate change mitigation and adaptation, greenhouse gas management, and climate finance. These standards provide the practical and foundational building blocks that organizations would need when preparing credible sustainability and climate-related disclosures. I wanted to highlight some of the key standards as well developed by ISO TC 207. We have the ISO 14001, looking at environmental management systems. The suite of standards produced by the TC, they can help companies with their sustainability and climate commitments and their implementation, support the disclosures required by the IFRS S2. And one of the key standards that provides support is the ISO 14064 and that series of standards. Some other relevant standards include the 14001. We also have the ISO 14090, which looks at adaptation to climate change, and the 14091 looking at vulnerability, impacts, and risk assessment. These standards assist organizations to identify, assess, and prioritize sustainability and climate-related risk. On this particular topic, I wanted to highlight two key initiatives under ISO TC 207. We have the Developing Country Engagement Strategy, and this is one of the key focus areas for me as the twin chair of the ISO TC 207. It is focused on awareness building, sharing of experiences, and showcasing the application of standards in developing countries, and also how developing countries have demonstrated leadership in environmental standardization. We also have another initiative, which is the Youth Leadership Group, and this is focused on building leadership in the next generation. Actually, the third cohort of the Youth Leadership Group will be launched on the 20th of June, so this Saturday, and happy to note that there are participants from Pakistan as well. And we really appreciate the support from developing countries, and we recognize that there are very successful initiatives that are taking place. Our focus as the TC would be to enhance the commitment and the contributions of the developing countries, as well as building the capabilities for our youth leaders. I wanted to touch now on something that is very important, especially for SMEs in developing countries, and looking at the CBAM, net zero commitments, supply chain decarbonization, and these issues becoming very important, and the potential impact on the SMEs and how SMEs can utilize the ISO standards without excessive compliance costs. Now, let's start off in saying that there are compliance costs. These issues are real. And for the SMEs, cascading regulations like CBAM and corporate net zero mandates means that large buyers are increasingly demanding carbon and environmental data as one of the prerequisites of doing business. So SMEs can practically adopt ISO standards using a phased risk-based approach, a highly scalable approach. And this has to integrate data collection into daily operations. Now, these are just some recommended steps. Every organization, SME, MSME, would have to determine how they utilize the ISO standards within their operations. But I think one of the key points is that the ISO standards, especially 14000 and the other standards produced by TC 207, we have to look at it as a scalable adoption framework. And one of the key steps would be to establish data baseline. So looking at where we can collect data at low or zero cost. So we do not need expensive software to start. Compliance can begin by gathering existing operational data to cover Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. So this means that we can track utility bills, fuel invoice, waste disposal receipts, log in production volumes, transport records. And establishing a baseline is critical. And then this can be scaled up to complex Scope 3 tracking when requested by key clients. Then secondly, looking at the scalable management framework. The ISO 14001 can be used as an internal operational document or blueprint rather than going directly to, say, costly third-party certification. So scaling to fit, applying the framework strictly to your most material impacts, example, high energy use or raw material waste, looking at the scalability advantage. As the business grows or there are increasing demands from customers, we can escalate and grow the framework for a fully auditable system when necessary. And looking at the CBAM, I think there can be a prioritization of high impact products or even services. So if clients demand product level data under ISO 14067 to satisfy CBAM or supply chain requirements, looking at the highest volume, highest emission, highest risk or export facing products first, and then scaling the product footprint methodology to lower product lines over time as resources allow. So focusing on the high priority products would be essential for small or micro enterprise. And then finally, looking at operationalizing compliance to drive return on investment. I think one of the key points is to shift the mindset from a lot of paperwork documentation to operational efficiency. And this means integrating the ISO principles into daily habits or processes being utilized by the MSMEs to ultimately reduce business costs. For example, looking at energy efficiency, preventative maintenance, lowering the utility bill, doing waste reduction and smarter purchasing and procurement. So it could help with improving margins while satisfying the ISO 14001 objectives. In summary, by adopting the ISO standards incrementally and using a scalable approach, SMEs can utilize the framework to prepare and comply with regulations like CBAM, starting off with some of the basic elements and prioritizing certain products, and then eventually growing the level of compliance over time. So that would be my basic advice for SMEs, MSMEs, and it doesn't only apply to say 14001, but any ISO standards, because we do understand that certification costs can be significant. So unless there's a direct need to be certified, we recommend that the company start small and evolve over time. Now, looking at a very important area and turning to the issue of the future integration of the ISO 14067 reporting with digital product passwords, CBAM, and disclosure systems. I think one of the key points here, we are living in a technology-driven world. We have AI, we have a lot of technology systems. So the product carbon footprint is becoming increasingly important. You know, looking at now the question, what is the carbon impact of products? And this ISO standard, the 14067, is important because it provides principles, requirements, and guidance for quantifying and reporting the carbon footprint of products based on life cycle assessment thinking. And this is now very important for supply chain requirements and transparency. Looking ahead, and I said that we are living in a technology world, the reporting systems will become more connected to digital systems. The digital product passports, for example, are intended to make product information more accessible, traceable, and transparent across value chains.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Apologies to interrupt. We are slightly pushed by time, and we have other partners